Hello everyone! Welcome back to the English Boost podcast, where we turn basic English into bold, beautiful, and downright captivating conversations. I'm Anna.
And I'm Liam. Today's episode is all about the magic of adjectives, those little words that do so much work in making English come alive.
Right, Liam. Think about it. Without adjectives, we'd be saying things like, I have a cat, and that's it. But throw in a few adjectives, and suddenly we're talking about a fluffy, mischievous, snow-white cat who's got a mind of its own. Much more vivid, right?
Exactly. Adjectives are like the seasoning of language. Too bland and your descriptions fall flat. Add the right ones, and you've got a story that practically pops off the page.
Today, we're diving deep into how adjectives can supercharge your English. We'll talk about why they're so powerful, the different types, and common mistakes to avoid. And at the end, we'll even have a fun little exercise to get you practicing along with us.
So whether you're describing a breathtaking sunset, an endearing friend, or maybe just your morning coffee, by the end of this episode, you'll have the tools to make every description memorable.
Buckle up, everyone! By mastering adjectives, you're about to add a whole new layer of flavor to your English. But first, don't forget to check if you are already subscribed. We have new episodes weekly.
All right, let's kick things off with why adjectives are so powerful. Picture this. If words were paint, adjectives would be the colors. They're what turn a plain sentence into something vivid and alive.
Totally. When you say, it's a day, that's one thing. But if you say, it's a bright, sun-drenched day with a gentle breeze, suddenly, we're there with you. We can feel it, almost like we're experiencing that day ourselves.
Yes, and adjectives work their magic by adding depth and emotion. When you describe a friend as just nice, it's simple. But if you say they're a warm, empathetic friend who always knows just what to say, well, that person suddenly feels much more real and memorable.
Exactly, Liam. Adjectives give your listeners or readers a mental picture. They create a mood, an image, sometimes even a story. And that's why they're so important in English. Imagine if every conversation you had could be just a little more colorful, a little more interesting. That's the power of adjectives.
And the best part, you don't need a ton of adjectives to make a big impact. Even one or two well-chosen ones can completely change the tone of what you're saying. Like, instead of just saying, I had coffee this morning, you could say, I had a strong aromatic coffee that woke me up with one sip.
Yes. So, for our listeners, start thinking about adjectives as your little storytelling tools. They're like a spice rack for your language. You can add warmth, excitement, coziness, whatever you need to match the mood. Play around with them and see how much life they bring to your words. Now that we know how powerful adjectives can be, let's break them down a little. Not all adjectives are created equal, right? There are different types, each adding its own flavor to descriptions.
Absolutely. And each type of adjective paints a different part of the picture. Take appearance, for example. When you're describing someone's looks, you could say tall, elegant, radiant, or even scruffy, depending on what image you want to convey.
Exactly. And then we have adjectives for personality. Imagine describing someone as kind versus calling them a fiercely loyal, unapologetically bold friend. That personality comes through so much stronger with just a couple of carefully chosen words.
Let's not forget adjectives for size, color, and texture, too. Picture a massive golden retriever versus just saying a big dog. Or a smooth, dark chocolate dessert. Now that's a dessert you want to try.
That's the magic of choosing specific adjectives. By using words that hint at size, color, or texture, you're giving listeners or readers an instant mental image. Imagine saying a crisp white shirt instead of just a shirt. You can almost feel the fresh fabric.
So true, Anna. And here's the trick. When you pick adjectives that fit the context perfectly, you're creating descriptions that stick. Instead of generic words, you're using language that feels alive, that feels real.
So, for everyone listening, start thinking about the different types of adjectives you use every day. Next time you describe something, try reaching for an adjective that goes beyond the basics. Describe your coffee as rich and velvety instead of just good. Make it vivid.
All right, so let's dive into some common pitfalls when using adjectives. One of the biggest mistakes people make is choosing adjectives that don't quite match the noun they're describing.
Exactly. Think of adjectives as puzzle pieces. The right adjective fits perfectly, enhancing the description. But if you force an adjective that doesn't match, it can sound confusing or even a bit awkward.
Right! Imagine describing a friend as icy. It feels off, right? Unless you're using it as a metaphor, like for a cold personality, it's just not the best match. Icy works much better with words like wind or glare, where it naturally fits the context.
And here's another example. Describing a sofa as friendly probably doesn't make much sense, but calling it plush or inviting does. The idea is to pick adjectives that make sense to the listener so they can instantly visualize what you're talking about.
Another thing to watch out for is using adjectives that are too vague or general. If you say something is nice or good, you're not giving your listener much to work with. Instead, go specific. Is it a refreshing drink or a soothing cup of tea? That little bit of specificity makes a big difference.
Yes. And sometimes we tend to overuse certain adjectives, like amazing or awesome. They lose their impact if they're used all the time. So, it's good to mix it up. Try something like breathtaking or spectacular when it fits the mood.
Repeat, breathtaking.
Something is breathtaking. Spectacular, right?
So, here's our advice. Try to match the right adjective with the right noun, and don't be afraid to go specific. Think about the feeling or image you want to create and choose adjectives that naturally fit.
And trust us, your descriptions will become much more powerful with these small adjustments. All right, listeners, it's time to put those adjectives to work. We're going to take a few simple sentences and transform them by adding adjectives. This is where you'll really see the difference they make.
Yes, so let's start with a basic one. It's a house. Pretty plain, right? Now, what if we say it's a cozy red brick house with a rustic charm? Suddenly, you can almost picture it. Repeat, it's a cozy red brick house with a rustic charm.
It's a cozy red brick house with a rustic charm. Now, you're imagining the warm, inviting vibe of that house, rather than just thinking, okay, it's a building. Here's another one. Instead of just saying he has a dog, try he has a playful golden retriever with boundless energy. Now, we've got personality. Playful golden retriever with boundless energy.
Love it. Let's give our listeners a little challenge. Take this sentence. She has a car. Now, try to describe it with adjectives. Maybe it's a sleek midnight blue car that turns heads, or a vintage charming car with a lot of history.
Oh, I like that. And remember, everyone, there's no one right way to describe things. Adjectives let you add your own unique touch, so play around with them and find what feels right for the image you're trying to create.
Exactly. Adjectives also let you go deeper if you want to add layers to your description. So instead of just a tall building, you could say a towering glass skyscraper that sparkles in the sunlight. You're making it memorable.
So here's a fun exercise you can do after the podcast. Pick 3 random objects around you and try describing each with at least 2 adjectives. Notice how it changes the way you see them and how much richer your language becomes.
And remember, adjectives are here to help you tell a story. With practice, you'll find yourself using them more naturally and adding color to your conversations without even thinking about it.
All right, now that you're warmed up with adjectives, let's wrap things up with a few final thoughts on how you can keep building your descriptive skills.
Absolutely. Remember, adjectives are like little magic words. They don't just tell, they show. And with the right ones, you can transform any sentence from bland to brilliant.
So, whether you're describing your morning coffee, your best friend, or the sunset, play around with those adjectives. Think about the feeling you want to create, and don't be afraid to get specific.
And hey, if you found this episode helpful, try practicing what we talked about today. Go back, re-listen, and add your own adjectives to our examples. The more you use them, the easier it'll be to make your English more vivid and engaging.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep making your English come alive. Until next time, this is Anna.
And Liam, take care and keep boosting that English. See you next time on the English Boost podcast.